been a pretty big year for Warhammer 40k. Seriously, we got Space Marine 2 coming out. Dark Tide got like a million updates that are hopefully making up for how it released, with it becoming a game that everybody wants to get their hands on again. Off, we got some new audiences that are getting introduced to 40ks, with series being confirmed in production for Amazon. Heck, even Fulgrim got announced for 40k. But I would have to say that one of the more important things to come out in the past few months for 40k, besides Space Marine 2, has been the new Warhammer 40k episode for the Secret Level series on Amazon, giving a little vignette into the universe for more general audiences to watch, which is kind of interesting, especially since video games being adapted into series and movies have gotten a big uptick since Arcane came out. The episode of Secret Level that features Warhammer 40k doesn't just feel like a fun little add-on to the already large universe. It has forethought that's put into it that originates from the community around Warhammer 40k that shows an understanding for the original product that provides an interesting introduction point for people that might not be too familiar with the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, while still providing a lot for the fans that are already here. And in this video, I'm going to go over how Secret Level understands Warhammer 40k. Before Secret Level, there was Astartes. Astartes is a fan-created project that follows a group of space marines on a mission to take down an enemy of the Imperium, and with some freaky space magic, it showcases how scary and overwhelming and outrageous the universe of Warhammer 40k is. The short series acts as a vignette using no dialogue that captured the hearts of the Warhammer community for quite a while. And it's where this comes from, which is probably the most shared Warhammer media, at least through memes, I have ever seen. This one segment could probably be dissected and have a whole video essay written about it, with this exact same clip being replayed over and over again like a YouTube poop. But the entirety of the series is masterfully done, without dialogue that shows what Space Marines would most likely act like in universe during missions, with them being these super fast moving super soldiers that are extraordinarily organized and not needing to communicate to get the job done, being untouchable when fighting normal humans, but they themselves are more well matched towards the powers of cybernetically enhanced beings and supernatural powers, with them being brutal and ready to fight even when they've lost a hand or arm in combat, never missing around and always hitting a target. The chapter of Space Marines used for the shorts are a fan-made chapter called their Retributors, and some fan-made chapters are still very much so talked about, but they used to be a much bigger idea in 40k lore that you could add your own things on top of it. This chapter is called the Retributors, and they were later absorbed into the official canon, that are described as brutal and distant fighters that deploy in small strike squads, giving them the reasons why they act the way they do in this short, characterizing them and giving them this personality. Ayama Penderson alone worked with crowdfunding to make Astartes. Astartes became so noteworthy that the owners of the Warhammer license, Games Workshop, went and hired Ayama Penderson as an animator. And you'd never guess who they got to be a layout artist over at Blur Studios, the same people that made Halo 2's anniversary cutscenes for the Warhammer Secret Level episode. Already making it so the short would have proven talent behind it has made some of the best Warhammer 40k media to ever come out. And the Secret Level episode does take a lot of cues from Astartes, made so the success of this episode was not guaranteed, but it started on the right foot. Spoilers for the Space Marine video games from here on out. If you're worried about getting spoiled, now's the time to turn off the video. Bye-bye. Alright, now that the geeks are gone, the plot and setting of the Secret Level episode for Warhammer 40k takes place after the events of Space Marine 2 that follow Titus of the Ultramarines and his silly little adventures on stopping the use of the same MacGuffin that was found in the first Space Marine game, and how he needed to destroy it in the second. The artifact is later destroyed, but many questions come up about how and why Titus is so goated. Because he's just so good at being a space. He's a free thinker that uses the teaching of his holy Space Marine law book and employs them in crazy ways that always work out for him. He has to deal with being labeled as a heretic and having his rank stripped from him in the first game, with him being then put in the Death Watch for a few centuries, and then being absorbed back into the Ultramarines in his outing in Space Marine 2, where he has to deal with a lot of the same accusations. Space Marine 2 showcases him as incorruptible, and he has the best ideas ever despite his own people wanting to dispose of him on multiple different occasions because he's slightly shady, when you don't know what's going on and you're just a general hater for Titus because he's actually your ride or die homie in every situation. He later meets the chapter master of the Ultramarines, Manius Calgar, Stalgar and is told about how he is uncorruptible and goated, which we already knew because that's us, that's our guy, our player character, and he's super cool and incorruptible. Being said by Papa Smurfmanius Calgar himself that Titus is unstoppable, quick-witted, and one of the smartest minds in the Imperium, at least tactically. But we never really see what made Titus the way he is. Instead, it just reintroduces Titus and shows the player that he is the space marine that can do almost anything. And we meet up with him doing a mission for the Ultramarines and the Primarch himself, Rabute Gilliman, during the Secret Level episode. Spoilers about the Warhammer 40k Secret Level episode from here on out. Go watch it. And come back, I'll miss you. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. Such is the nature of the universe of Warhammer 40k. Something that I would say is the most important in the presentation of Warhammer 40k is how the universe, in one part, is completely high-tech, but it is also a universe that is grinding itself to dust with inherent violence where no progress can be made. That makes it so every piece of armor is caked in the tragedy and passions of hundreds. For 10,000 years, a ceaseless war has happened, and humanity is getting nowhere. They are losing. The only hope for anything is a Hail Mary play. The look of the episode, the darkness that embodies the feelings of grime, where everything is battle worn. The displays look like command prompts off of old computers that look just like they should, based off of how it describes in the stories and video games and books. They're all lovingly handcrafted by the sweaty nerds that made this to look like Warhammer 40k. An example for how grim dark the universe of 40k is that the episode starts to showcase that Space Marines are not born Space Marines. Like everyone else, they are born as humans. These humans are taken as children and put through extensive training, forged into Space Marines, and hot take, putting children into military service and breaking them with it, causing them to become super soldiers, is a little cringe. It's not exactly ethical, but nothing is in this universe. Skulls and bones adorn a lot of the armor that is shown here, especially the shields. But those actually being the skeletons of these heroes that are being decorated by the current quote-unquote heroes of the Imperium. The ship looks like it's part of a monastery and one part spaceship, and the Space Marines walk around with seals and shields, looking like knights more than super soldiers, which of course is what makes 40k so awesome. It is showcased in gory detail that I unfortunately can't show on YouTube just how powerful these Space Marines are. That's because humans are much more akin to paper mache instead of beings made of flesh and bone, compared to the likes of Space Marines, who act like impenetrable demigods that shrug off point-blank rounds to the head and can easily liquefy a normal human, and that do it while being organized and not breaking formation, showing that these beings are at least a few steps above normal human beings, with the only real roadblock being a tank that pins one of them down, while another rushes it and dispatches of the crew quickly. They then march on with a relic or case in tow to the location where they have to go to. There's no need to communicate as they know the mission they're going on, just like Space Marines shown in the Astartes series do. Surely nothing can actually destroy the Space Marines. They are practically unkillable demigods. As the Space Marines descend into the underground, they go from fighting the human element to the supernatural, which they're somewhat ready for. Zangors come out of nowhere and are dealt with as the Space Marines go back to back until they find a statue of a greater demon that must be destroyed. With that case they were dragging around with them holding a psyker, helping them almost destroy the Dark Idol by protecting them with magics. That is, until the Sorcerer comes out with dark magics that attack the Psyker and impale them, and everything slows down for the Space Marines, as they're completely helpless compared to these dark powers, showcasing that in this universe, there's always something more powerful and more terrifying. This is just a servant of the Dark Gods, and not anywhere close to what a greater demon could actually do to Space Marines. And the Chaos Sorcerer simply destroys their bodies, with the Space Marine's final moments being characterized by a vision of his very body being ripped out of his Primaris armor and squished in its own servos, liquefying it. And then another is decommissioned. The Chaos Sorcerer then reaches for the mind of the Space Marine that chose Titus and forged him into an Ultramarine, who selected him when he was an aspirant. And inside his mind, he sees his worst fears, Titus growing from a boy to a Space Marine and being corrupted by the ruinous powers of chaos, making him slump to the floor, not dead, but gravely injured. And then, when the Sorcerer moves Titus, something interesting happens. Something that we see in the secret level episode is the origins of Titus as a little child soldier that showcases a truth that proves to the viewer about what makes Titus so inherently special as a Space Marine. Titus knows no fear. The Chaos Sorcerer tries to pry open Titus and see his greatest fears, which only leads to its bisection, showcasing that Titus' most special trait, besides beating 2 Chaos Warbands, an Orc Invasion, and numerous other feats, Titus embodies what it means to be an Ultramarine. Titus is shown again and again to be incorruptible and steadfast in his nature, with him fighting against immeasurable odds to hopefully get out alive, with the very man selected him for service telling him to give up, even though he still forges on, giving long-standing players of the Space Marine games a new appreciation for Titus and allowing for people who aren't as committed to 40k to see how cool some of the characters of the universe can be, showcasing that secret level understands Warhammer 40k. Hey guys, thank you for watching this small little video essay. If you liked it, make sure to like, and if you want to watch more stuff like it about 40k, make sure to subscribe. I might also pan out, who knows. If you guys have anything you'd like me to talk about in videos, make sure to request it in the comments down below too, and tell me what you think about the secret level episode. Well, till next video, fellas.